Everybody
to a new series,
to a the dying, the gasping, the final breaths of a dying old man. It's the Footnotes podcast, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
the good one.
That's right. 5 movies, only one masterpiece, and it's Jurassic Park: The Lost World. Although I really think they brought it back in the third film in a way that they just didn't have in the newer movies or even the original. I'm being sarcastic for anybody who can't tell. So we're having a bit of a format change where we're going to be coming from these a little bit differently, a little bit more prep time, a little bit less creative process.
There are going to be several more of these updates in format until we get it right.
Yeah, eventually we'll figure it out. You know, we'll bring in guests. Maybe we'll come up with sequels to movies.
Maybe animate our conversations.
Unlikely, unless we get a lot of money very quickly, or one of us decides that we enjoy animation enough to waste, hundreds of hours on it. Which would only be a waste because it would be us doing it, not because animation itself is a waste.
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody watches the podcast right now, as is. You got to build that audience. You got to stay consistent.
But we would get an audience if we had nice animation.
Possibly, but possibly not. I've seen some alright animations on YouTube. Didn't get any, press at all. If you look hard enough, there's all kinds of people, Jacob.
There's all kinds of people.
There's all kinds of people in this world. Are you an Alan Grant or are you an Ian Malcolm?
I'm an Ian Malcolm.
Okay. I'm sure you'd like to think that you're an Ian Malcolm. Really, you're just that lawyer guy who gets eaten by the T-Rex in the bathroom. No, you know what you are? You're John Hammond. You have no sense of scope or like what is or is not a bad idea.
I think they could have played that character a bit to his extreme a little more.
You mean like in the second movie, like have him go insane or something?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's supposed to, at the end of the first movie, he's like, I've decided not to endorse this park either, Dr. Grant, right? Like he's come to his senses, sort of, right? Mm-hmm. Thanks to Laura Dern, and all of his employees being killed. All the ones who didn't leave on the boat in anticipation of the hurricane. Now that I think about it, that's a weird... I guess the idea is like, not that many people died, right? Like most of the employees left during the hurricane, right? But why would you invite... I understand, like, it's supposed to be like the chaos thing of like, they didn't know the hurricane was happening. But they invited all these guests, right? They invited Grant, and I don't remember Laura Dern's character, so I'm just going to call her Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, right? And then his grandkids, right? They invited them all, and then there's like, there's a hurricane coming. Wouldn't they be like, I forget, does this happen? Are they like, you have to come back to base or something? There's a hurricane warning? They just stop mid-tour, right? In front of the T-Rex paddock while the hurricane is going.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens.
I'm sure that part of that is in the movie, but I don't remember it. Like it seemed very. But you have like hours notice for a hurricane. It seems very strange that they couldn't get them to like shelter in anticipation.
Well,
of that.
this is a secret project. No one knows about this yet, so they probably weren't very connected.
No, I know. I remember there being some issue with like the communication systems or something, but it still seems really. It still seems like. There's a lot of things there's a lot of things that don't smell right about the Jurassic Park franchise, but their inadequate
world.
their inadequate hurricane response, I think, is the most often looked is the one that's most often like ignored, looked over, most often looked over. Wow, so so today we're going to be talking about Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, which we will henceforth refer to as Jurassic Park 2.
Okay.
Because that's what it is. I despise anytime somebody's like, Avengers Infinity War. Just call it Avengers 3. We all know you already numbered 2 of the movies. You're already like Avengers 1 and Avengers 2. The only reason why people don't number things, Jacob, is because they're like, well, nobody wants to see Jason 10. Like, nobody wants to see Friday the 13th 10. Make it Jason X. Right, and he's going to be in space, right? It's this idea that, well, if you just obscure what number in the franchise this movie is, then people won't view it as just like another installment in the franchise. They'll be like, oh, is this the 6th one? Is this the 8th one? I don't know. It's the same, and they do the same thing with the Avengers movies, where they're like, oh yeah, Avengers Infinity War, it's definitely going to be the last Avengers movie, wink, wink. Right? The only reason that they didn't call it Avengers 3 is because they wanted to make more money off of it. Same thing with Jurassic Park Lost World. Doesn't apply exactly as well, but it's a similar thing of like, it feels simultaneously, it feels like, just call it what it is. It feels dishonest and pretentious to call it like something subtitle.
Age of Ultron had a lot of lost potential. Ultron was an awesome villain, in my opinion.
We will do easily. We will do Age of Ultron at some point in this podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
okay. So I just have a few facts and figures to go over before we continue. Anyone who has been staring at the screen in the video version of this has already seen this, but. So the Jurassic Park 2 cost $73 million to make. How much money do you think it made?
10 million.
It made $618 million in the box office, which is over 4 times how much it cost.
That's Alice in Wonderland statistics right there.
Well, no wonder they made a third one, right? They're like the first movie was like a classic, right? Like an instant classic. People were coming to see it every day. It was the most amazing thing that had ever happened. It was the first movie to have like dinosaurs that didn't look like shit. Or I guess the first like live action film to have dinosaurs that didn't look like shit. And then like the second movie grossed $618 million. Jacob?
What?
Right off the bat, the idea of a second island. Good idea, bad idea?
I think it makes sense in the current lore.
The current lore. I hate this.
What?
The whole idea of the Jurassic Park lore. It seems stupid to me.
It's like Star Wars. You see? Okay,
wait, no.
Star Wars Holiday Special was lame.
No, it's not.
Life Day as a concept isn't lame.
No, it is. It is lame.
No, see, because it was about the oppression of the Wookiees.
Jacob, if I asked you, which would you rather celebrate? Arbor Day or Life Day?
No, see,
which
we
would
have
you
a
want?
different culture.
It's stupid, Jacob.
We have a different culture.
Don't defend the Star Wars. Or don't defend the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I'm not defending the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Don't defend the concept of Life Day is stupid. If you're going to come up with a holiday in your like world building, all right, go to the fucking trouble of making like an interesting name for it that is historically tied to something. Don't give it a name that comes from English that just sounds like what the Teletubbies have. Like the Teletubbies have, like, they celebrate Life Day. Okay, that's not a concept that an adult is like, I'm going to celebrate Life Day.
Okay, well,
I'm going to celebrate Goodness Day. I'm going to celebrate Love Day. It sounds stupid.
So one day, George Lucas got out of his bed drooling, and he got a call, and he said, "Hey, you want to?" Yeah, the call said, "Hey, you want to do a Star Wars holiday special?" And he said, "Absolutely."
Right, and then like later on, he was like, "Well, you didn't say what holiday we were celebrating, so I just made one up." Right? Well, he was high on LSD, out of his fucking mind. Yeah, this is what happens when you don't have good editors. I hope everybody, let this be a lesson to you all, okay? Star Wars is what happens when you don't have good editors. The reason why the first Star Wars film is good is because the editors worked so hard on it. And once George Lucas, once they pumped him up full of drugs and sent him out to make them millions of dollars in merchandising worldwide, right? They're like, oh, you don't need to, like, he knows what he's doing. Don't worry about that. You don't need to edit that. We don't need to pare this down, right? Like, he's making us so much money. It's all fine, right? And this is what fucking happens. This is what happens when you give artists too much creative control. Editors are important, goddammit. It's the same thing with the new Star Wars films, right? Like, the new Star Wars films are like bloated and strange, and their plot lines that don't go anywhere, and they needed a better editor. And nobody edited those films the way that they needed to be edited. The only one that has good pacing is the first movie, and the first movie is dull as all hell because nothing fucking happens in it.
No, so they destroy the
Star Killer base. They built another giant weapon, and they're going to use it to destroy a planet we don't care about. The humanity. But it's so tragic.
It's bigger this time. You see the stakes escalate as the story goes on, which is a good thing.
No, making it bigger just makes it more stupid. It doesn't make the stakes better. You know what else needed an editor?
No.
Jurassic Park: The Lost World. It needed a better editor. This movie deserved a better editor. There's so many weird plot lines in this film that go nowhere and mean nothing. Vince Vaughn as a like animal rights extremist who's working for who's on Hannon's payroll, who got sent there to disrupt and sabotage the operation, right? Essentially an eco-terrorist. He's an eco-terrorist, right? Nothing ever happens with his plotline. I don't think he dies. I think he lives, but he doesn't even like talk in the last half of the movie. After they get the T-Rex and they take it to San Francisco, he's just out of the story. He has nothing left to contribute to it because he only exists for parts that are on the island. The one guy, Stark, okay, there's a mercenary, right? This asshole mercenary, the one who ends up getting eaten by the Compsognathus, right?
Remind me.
Okay, so one of the mercenaries is this guy, named Stark, and he's shown to be like sadistic towards the dinosaurs. Like I think he throws a rock at one of the Compsognathuses, and he's generally just like in this pissed off mood, right? And he's like drinking water, and then later on he gets lost from the group, and we get like this horror scene, right, of the Compsognathus, the swarm of them like following him down the riverbed. Yes. Yeah, the Compsognathus are the little things that killed the little girl.
Yeah,
at the beginning of the film.
So I did
another plot point that doesn't go anywhere. May I remind you? I would like to think that if a young woman, if a young girl, right, from a wealthy family got mutilated by a bunch of dinosaurs on an island, that a England-based. Why the people who run InGen are all English, but they're going to build a base and they're going to build a zoo in San Francisco?
Because America is the center of the world.
That if that happened, they would not be able to sweep it under the rug. Okay, I'm willing to buy. All right, I'm willing to buy that they had some kind of exclusivity contract, copyright bullshit that they held, like Grant and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum too, so that they wouldn't so that they wouldn't get paid if they like revealed what happened on the island. That makes sense. I'm willing to buy that. Some of the people who went missing, right, or died, right. Some of those people, either nobody cared enough about them to like investigate, or they wrote it off as like a company accident. I'm willing to buy that. But the idea that I think this film takes place like a year after the original film happened, but the idea that this like international incident happened where this rich family like went to this island, which is private property that they were not supposed to be on, right? They went to this island, and then their daughter got mutilated by these monsters who were bred by this corporation, right? That is a civil lawsuit waiting to happen. I'm sure they're like, oh yeah, we'll just give you a bunch of money so that you can pay for facial reconstruction or whatever. But no, if I was in that situation, if my child had been attacked by monsters, I wouldn't let any company sweep it under the rug. I would take that company to court and sue the fuck out of them.
Especially because nobody's going to rich, like
because nobody's going to vote. Nobody's going to like rule in favor of the company who's creating monsters. Nobody's going to be like, well, you weren't supposed to be on that island. On the other hand, this company did like genetically alter a bunch of lizards to turn them into monsters, and then they just set them free on an island to breed as they will.
Okay. I think this movie can be fixed with primarily one big change.
Yeah. Hit me.
We don't keep the secret. Everybody knows. They tell everyone that dinosaurs exist.
Yeah.
And Ian Malcolm gets a really big job at a research facility.
Yeah, I mean, I went in a completely different direction. I think that you will have.
Is desperate to get that zoo built, and that's why they're going to Isla Sorna.
Yeah, they're desperate to recoup losses on their investment that went ass up. But okay, so this is interesting. So in the book, so you know the people who you remember Dennis Nedry?
No.
Okay.
Was he like Newman?
Wayne Knight, Jacob.
No. The hunter?
No, Wayne Knight is the actor who played Newman.
Okay.
Dennis who is Dennis Nedry.
Okay.
All right. The people who hired Dennis Nedry to steal the DNA.
Yes.
Okay. In the Crichton book, Jurassic Park: The Lost World, the sequel that he created.
Yes. Which
we're going to get a little bit more into the sequel. I have some problems with the book. Just reading the synopsis, it seems kind of stupid as well. But in the sequel, the company that he was supposed to get that genetic material to, they're the people who take over the park. What happens is that after the events of Jurassic Park Uno, InGen goes bankrupt, because of course they do, and Biosyn, which is the name of this shady organization that wants to steal their genetic secrets, buys them out of the company and decides to take over, right?
Right.
Which makes a lot more sense to me as well. Because I don't know what InGen did before they made dinosaurs. This is something that I forget, it was in like a Cracked video or something. They were like, what did they do before they made dinosaurs? Like, what was this company based off of? And it gets even more fucking complicated with Jurassic Park: The Fallen Kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's like a secondary company that was run by this other guy who's working with John Hammond, and they're also into genetics, and they want the dinosaurs.
John Hammond's still alive.
Are you asking if the actor is still alive, or if the character is still alive?
Cast?
He doesn't appear in Fallen World, if that's what you mean. No, he's dead by that time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, John Attenborough, who played him died in 2014, I think, and they mentioned him being dead in Jurassic Park, in Jurassic World. I don't remember the name of the character, but the Indian tycoon who ends up getting on a helicopter and using a Gatling gun to try and gun down the Indominus Rex. He says, like, before he died, John Hammond made me promise to rebuild this park. Which, again, there's so many... none of... This is why I hate the idea of the Jurassic Park lore, right? Because I'm like, who gives a fuck if it's on Isla Nubla or Isla Sorna, right? They look the same, right? One of them is slightly bigger. Okay. It might have different enclosures. I'm sure if you're like a big fan, you're like, oh, there's only certain dinosaurs on Isla Nublar versus they had all the dinosaurs on Isla Sorna.
No, here's what we do, okay? So Isla Nublar is where they were making the park, is where all the conventional dinosaurs were.
Yeah.
Isla Sorna is where all the experimental shit happens. And that's
like
how
the crazy, fucked up mutant dinosaurs.
So InGen is a very advanced company, so they have a better understanding than most scientists.
Are you going into your pitch right now?
Time. Yes.
Okay, wait. Before you do that, let me finish up my numbers, which again are already on the screen. But so we'll get to your idea because I definitely want to talk about this. But just to sum up my point, the point that I was trying to get towards is it doesn't matter what island it's on or like. Because the series has no continuity, okay? There's no fucking continuity. Because by the end of the second film, right, John Hammond is like, we have to let nature find a way, right? Except by Jurassic World, apparently, oh no, he did a 180 on that shit, and he was like, nah, open up that park anyway, right? And... Right? Like, it's the situation is completely reversed for no apparent reason. It's just like, yeah, they built this multi-million-dollar park and it's got dinosaurs in it. So I refute anyone who believes in the Jurassic Park lore because it's not like Star Wars. Star Wars is a fantasy story, right? Taking place inside a world that has characters, right? It has like multiple background characters and foreground characters, and people have backstories where they interacted with other characters, right? It's a cohesive. It's not cohesive, right? There's retconning. There's stuff that shouldn't have happened and doesn't count and is meaningless, right? And stuff that somebody added in there just to make money, right? But at least it has the veneer of an extended universe, right? A series of stories, part of a shared world. The Jurassic Park franchise does not take place inside a coherent world. It doubles back on itself and like corkscrews and does all kinds of like up and down, like roller coaster ride type shit, and it basically just goes in a circle.
Right.
So I refute the notion of any kind of continuity in the Jurassic Park franchise. Okay?
Can I do my pitch now?
So the film won an Academy Award for visual effects.
Okay. Obviously.
Well, yeah. I mean, it had good effects. I would say. I don't know what else came out that year, so I couldn't really compare it. But it starred Jeff Goldblum, Julianne Moore, who played Sarah Harding, and the inimitable Vince Vaughn, who apparently Steven Spielberg saw like a comedy drama movie that Vince Vaughn was in. He was like, he was really good in that. I'll put him in the Jurassic Park film. Which seemed like a bad idea in my mind. The film was directed by Steven Spielberg and was written by David Coep, who also wrote the original Jurassic Park and The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Ah.
So, the jury is still out on whether or not David Coep is a master of his craft, or he just got lucky that one time.
The third best Indiana Jones movie.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm putting it out. I'm putting my flag down. I'm putting my foot down. I'm saying it here. We're talking about Star Wars. Fuck it. We're talking about Indiana Jones.
Crystal Skull was better than Temple of Doom.
Crystal Skull is worse than Temple of Doom.
No. Temple of Doom was racist and weird.
The Temple of Doom was racist. It was misogynistic. It was too dark. It completely neglected any kind of historical or religious significance in favor of just making shit up. All right, It's not a good film.
Look,
but at least it has parts that are interesting.
Indiana Jones movie
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
supernatural element. Okay, that is a cornerstone,
an inimitable fact
in an Indiana Jones movie.
Yes.
There's something supernatural that happens.
No. I know where they're going with this. You're one of those people who thinks that aliens are the same thing as magic.
No. The Temple of Doom was. It didn't have much. It had a little bit of supernatural stuff. It was
what are you talking about?
There was the hypnotizing, and then there was the glowing rocks, and that was it. And then there was the flaming voodoo part. It wasn't a big thing.
There's so much fucking magic in the Temple of Doom. There's too much magic in the Temple of Doom. There's glowing stones that create harmony. There's a guy who can reach inside people's chests and pull out their hearts. There's voodoo dolls, which again don't have anything to do with voodoo or with Hindu sex. It's connected to European pagan beliefs. What else? There's the brainwashing shit. They made them drink that weird stuff and then poison, and then it made them forget everything, go to this days, right? All that shit. There's snakes and insects that are inexplicably alive despite being trapped inside of catacombs, presumably for decades.
They absorb the moisture, whatever.
No, I know.
It's Ancient Aliens.
It's not a good film, but at least it's an interesting film. There's nothing interesting at all about Indiana Jones and the
Aliens
and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's so try-hardy and nostalgia baiting, and it reeks of the Star Wars prequels and the worst of Steven Spielberg's career. It was awful. It was boring as all hell. I would rather watch Jurassic Park 2, right?
Jurassic Park 2.
Which is uneven, right? And at certain times offensively stupid, right? I would rather watch it than Jurassic Park 3, which is just plain stupid. Jurassic Park 3 is just a bunch of idiots wandering around the island looking for somebody. Oh, they found him. Now they get attacked. Now they leave. Oh, they're safe now. It's so stupid. At least this film is not good, right? It's completely uneven. It goes against many things that I believe in, but at least it's an interesting film. There's nothing interesting about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or Jurassic Park 3.
I thought the ants were a cool thing that happened in it.
Same thing with Jurassic World. Or this first Star Wars. It's just boring rehashes of things we've already seen.
Okay.
The whole fucking industry's going down the fucking tubes. Okay. Alright, okay. It was directed by Steven Spielberg and David Koepp. Yeah, and it was based on The Lost World by Michael Crichton. So, okay, Jacob, you give your pitch.
Alright.
For, here, let me just make a blank page so that the audience has something new to stare at. Jacob's pitch. Okay, so, go ahead.
The world now knows that dinosaurs exist. They're on the island. They're copyrighted, so no one can really do anything about it.
Dinosaurs exist again.
Yeah. But there are poachers who will definitely go to the island and hunt them down. So the dinosaurs on the islands become increasingly hostile toward humans.
Okay. Well, they were already pretty hostile towards humans in the first movie. I don't know how they could get much worse than that, but go ahead.
Okay, so InGen or Biosyn, they're
well, who is it in your version? Is it InGen?
It was going to be InGen.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
They're desperate to get this zoo done, so they go to Isla Sorna to get all the interesting dinosaurs.
Pick them up, alright,
as opposed to all the boring ones on Isla Nublar.
Okay. Alright, remind me, which one is the breeding ground? Is the mutant breeding ground?
Isla Sorna.
Oh, Isla Sorna is the...
Isla Nublar was the park.
Okay. Which one are they going to?
Isla Sorna.
Okay. Allosaurus is where they have all the Spinosaurus and the pterodactyls and the Pachycephalosaurus.
Yes.
And the Compsognathus is
all right.
All the obscure shit. Okay,
all
go
right.
ahead.
So how I think all we should start.
The B-sides.
Poachers come to the island.
Okay.
They're hunting down some sort of dinosaur, probably like a Stegosaurus or something.
Okay.
They're carrying it to their ship, and suddenly they see something lurking in the trees, and they shoot at it.
Right.
But suddenly they're swarmed by these gliding raptors. They're microraptors. Then they act like predatory birds.
So like the Compsognathuses, but they have like wings so they can like fly through the air.
Flying Compsognathuses.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
If you're not a dino nerd, the Microraptor...
Dinerd. Go ahead.
Microraptor was recently discovered as one of the smallest raptors, and it was called the five-winged dinosaur because it used its arms, legs, and tail to flap.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
So these are feathered dinosaurs, right? Yes. We're going against the
okay, no. Here's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, InGen has advanced research. They have secret things that we don't know about.
All right.
Okay, they engineered the dinosaurs on Isla Nublar to look like what we thought they did, so they'd be more interesting. But on Isla Sorna, the experimental dinosaurs are more. So
the stuff that they put in the park is like the family-friendly stuff that people will immediately identify with dinosaurs, like T-Rexes and Triceratops and Velociraptors. You're saying, and then they put they got all their weird shit.
Bioweapons essentially.
Okay, all right, cool.
So
all right, continue.
In the lore of the Lost World, the
island was going to form a sort of a symbiotic ecosystem, unlike any other. Like all the new dinosaurs were going to coexist as one habitat. But and so I figure the dinosaurs are going to fill different animals' ecological niches. So. All right, so the InGen company gets to the island. Okay. They're kidnapping all the interesting dinosaurs, Stegosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus.
Okay.
And
question:
what?
Are they led by a big game hunter named Tembo?
Well, they were going to be led by Ludlow, but.
Okay. Go continue.
Anyway, Dr. Malcolm is there.
Why?
But he was sent by John Hammond.
But for what conceivable reason would he choose to return to the island where he nearly died multiple times?
This is out of this corner.
Why would he conceivably choose to go to a worse island where he could die again?
Because he felt like the happenings of Isla Nublar were partly his fault, and he wants to prevent something worse from happening.
Okay. So everybody knows about dinosaurs, right?
Yes.
Is Malcolm like a celebrity at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And he wants to stop InGen from starting anew.
Uh-huh.
So is he like going there with like a camera crew to get footage of them doing this so that he can prove that they're trying to open up a new zoo so that he can like get the public on his side to stop them?
So in the original movie, they were supposed to film the dinosaurs in their natural habitat to prove that they shouldn't be sent to a zoo somehow.
So I looked this up. This film takes a lot of inspiration from a film about like people in Africa. What's the phrase? Caging large animals and taking them back to North America. It takes a lot of inspiration from that film. But I think that it doesn't examine the themes about like the morality behind putting dinosaurs in cages enough to justify what the characters later do. Where like Vince Vaughn and Sarah Harding, they end up opening the cages and letting the dinosaurs loose, which leads to dozens of people dying.
Yeah. So we're not going to have that anymore.
Okay.
Instead, the company is going to get surrounded by color-changing carnivores.
Okay, the chameleon carnivores that showed up in the book of the Lost World. Yeah, all right, cool.
So at first we think like the tyranny of man destroying natural environment, and then suddenly the fucking carnivores rip everything to shit.
Right. Well, I would imagine it'd be, but when they cloned the Carnotaur, they didn't intend it to have chameleon abilities, but because of the lizard DNA they were using, or because of like the actual, because I imagine it would be a thing like archaeologists don't know that Carnotaurs had chameleon abilities, right? Mm-hmm. But it's possible that they did, because we don't have skin of the Carnotaur, probably. At least we didn't back in the 1990s.
I think it would have been inefficient to have color-changing skin on that larger body.
Oh, yeah, because you're saying it would be difficult to hide.
Yes.
That's true, although there were a lot more big animals back then, so proportionally it might make more sense. But I imagine it would be a thing where InGen cloned a Carnotaur, and they found out, oh shit, Carnotaurs can camouflage themselves. Mm-hmm. We didn't know they were able to do that.
No, they're bioweapons. InGen was trying to work on bioweapons.
Okay, this was intentional in your version?
Yes.
Okay, cool. They intentionally created a dinosaur that they had trouble seeing.
Right.
For the purpose of making it a weapon. All right, continue.
So Dr. Malcolm and company see...
what? Who's he with?
Harding and the camera guy.
No, not Vince Vaughn, Jacob. Tell me it's not true. Vince Vaughn was terrible in this film. But who are these characters that are with him? Why should we care about them? What connection do they have to Hammond or the Island or to Ian Malcolm?
Well, Dr. Harding was a paleontologist.
Okay,
so she would obviously have interest in this.
All right. But they're advocating to stop InGen from taking these dinosaurs off the island, right?
Yes. Because they're ecologists.
Okay, continue.
And at some point, Dr. Malcolm uses his chaos theory to get them out of a dinosaur-related incident.
What? Excuse me?
He's a math genius, so he uses his chaos theory.
No.
He's a math genius.
He's going to use his math philosophy. To save them from a dinosaur. That's worse than the 1990s version of hacking in the first film. That's worse than the child gymnast kicking a 90-pound raptor through a wooden wall. That's absurd, Jacob. You don't even have an explanation for how it's going to happen. You're just putting it out there that it would happen in your movie.
Yes.
It's so stupid, though.
But it's so cool.
No, it isn't. Have him become competent in something else if he needs to.
A math genius.
No,
he needs to use it for something.
Well, if you want him to be able to use his math to figure out something's going to happen in a certain number of hours or whatever, if you want to do that science babble bullshit like that at some point in the film, that's one thing. It's completely another thing if you're oh yeah, he's going to use his philosophy to get them out of this, to make a dinosaur not eat them. That seems stupid.
But in an entertaining way, right? You'd have fun watching that.
No.
Yes.
What? No, that would just be stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
So that's my pitch.
That's your pitch.
That's my pitch.
Mm-hmm. Wait. What happens at the end?
They get off the island.
Okay.
Using
what happens to the dinosaurs?
Okay. So there's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We see Spinosaurus
Spinosaurus, okay.
So we know now
cage on a boat in the San Francisco harbor.
We know now that Spinosaurus was a very aquatic animal.
Okay, yeah.
So
in the third film, there's a whole scene where the island is flooding and the Spinosaurus comes up out of the water under them while they're on like a crane.
Right, but it was a quadruped, and it had a really thick tail.
It walked on all fours.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, we see the Spinosaurus on the waters of the beach, and it's moving away from the island, and that's the cliffhanger.
It's swimming away from. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I over-prepared for this. I had like a whole film of ideas written down.
You're welcome, Ezra.
Well, I like your idea of like the swarms of flying things because Microraptors. Yeah, because that combines the pterodactyls from the third film, which are the only legitimately disturbing part of the third film, and then the Conthognathus from the second film, which are the most disturbing thing in the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically like giant. What if giant wasps tried to attack you?
Yeah.
Or I guess like really angry bats. Like what if bats were organized and not scared of human beings? Sure. My version is okay. Let's just get into it. So my pitch for how I would remake it: we start with a boat arriving on a darkened island. Several men tie up the boat on a dock and head into the jungle with guns. We see the men walking through the jungle with flashlights. We hear a hissing noise. They raise their guns. We hear gunshots and screaming. Cue! Cut! Not cue. Cut to a TV set in a Costa Rican household showing Ian Malcolm on a late-night talk show promoting his book, A Weekend with Dinosaurs. We find out about Camilla, a young woman living with her father, Marty, an obsessive biologist, AJ, her younger bullied brother, and Arlo, her older, rebellious troublemaker, angry brother, who has not been the same since the death of her mother. Uh-huh. One morning, American men in black suits...
Your OCs?
What?
These are all your OCs?
Yes.
Okay.
One morning, yeah, because the second film should have, in my opinion, should have nothing to do with the characters from the first film. Mm-hmm. In no universe does Ian Malcolm and Dr. Grant ever go back to any island in Costa Rica. I would be shocked if either of them ever visited a tropical island in their lives, let alone one that actually had dinosaurs on it. Their stories are also, the other thing is Grant had his character development.
How many naturally evolved animals on that island would have to have died in order for the dinosaurs to survive?
Yes, Jacob, that's something I address in my pitch.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's stupid in my opinion. I think if we do the third film, then maybe we would bring them back. Because there was like a pitch for a film where Grant and Malcolm have to go back to the island to stop the dinosaurs who are like breeding out of control, right? Which again was a sort of absurd idea, but at least like as a third film, I think it works better than as a second film. But I want new characters. So we find out about Camilla. One morning, American men in black suits come to talk with her father. He tells her that he's going on a business trip and he won't be back for a couple of weeks. He promises her that after this, they will be able to move inland, like away from the out of like the hurricane-prone area of the island where they are. I guess the whole island is technically hurricane-prone, but it'll be safer, I guess. He tells her that he loves her. She looks up the name of the company that the men were from and finds articles online about Biosyn purchasing the rights to the dinosaurs from the bankrupt InGen.
She goes to her dad's laboratory and finds sketches of dinosaurs and diagrams of gene chains and chemical formulas. She sees notes about an upcoming journey to the island, and she hears scratching noises coming from a glass cage in the corner of the lab. She walks over and lifts the tarp on the cage and stares at the consignathus inside of the cage. They attack the walls, trying to get to her, and she stares at them as the music intensifies.
If we both made entire movie pitches, we couldn't have gone through this whole episode.
I think we could have. It just would have been longer.
Well,
I was looking forward to yours getting super, weird. Like you were saying, this is where they put all the batshit insane, the crazy shit, right?
Right.
I was looking forward to yours, at some point, just really messed up stuff. Like they find, the failed experiments or whatever. And
here's an idea.
Becomes super body horror.
You know about that raptor with the long claws that's really smart?
No.
Okay, well, there was a raptor with long claws, and it had about the intelligence of an ape or so, and it was it was said that if there weren't a dinosaur mass extinction, it would become a highly intelligent creature. So I'm thinking they form a civilization.
It's not really a Jurassic Park film at that point, but sure, for the purposes of your pitch. If it works with the plot that you made. That is a situation where Ian Malcolm, is forced to confront, some kind of, civilization in the dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. Maybe. That would be an interesting plot, because he was all oh yeah, we gotta get rid of the dinosaurs because this is against God. This is
Did he say that?
Well, no, he said you're playing God, essentially. You're creating... You're bringing back the species that were wiped out millions of years ago, right, to make a profit off of them. Mm-hmm. You described it in terms of being an affront to natural decency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but having him maybe confront the humanity of dinosaurs, because that's the weird thing, right? Is so in the pitch I just told you about, where Malcolm and Grant decide to go back to the island to wipe out the dinosaurs, right? Or they have to go back to the island to wipe out the dinosaurs. In that pitch, the dinosaurs are they're threatening to spill out into the rest of the world and destroy the natural order and the ecosystem, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world ecosystem. They're essentially an invasive species.
Yeah.
Versus in Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom, a movie that actually came out eventually, they take the approach that, look, just because they're clones doesn't mean that they're not alive and they don't deserve to be alive.
Right.
To receive mercy, right? Even if it does fuck up the ecosystem, I guess.
Remember that time when the scientists made a snake mouse? Because that happened. They made a snake mouse.
Is that real, or is that one of those things that people just think is real?
No, I saw a picture where it didn't grow its limbs entirely, so it was just a torso and a tail.
Could it eat?
They probably fed it.
But could it move?
Probably not.
That's horrible. Why would they do that?
Science.
No, but what practical purpose does that serve?
They learned a lot about diseases, I think, maybe.
By giving them to the snake mouse?
They were able to insert snake genes into a mouse. That means a lot.
What does that have to do with diseases?
They could insert genes into diseases.
That's not how that works.
Maybe.
It's not oh yeah, we discovered that if, at least in the fucking movies, when they do something terrible like that, they're always oh yeah, we gave this rat lizard DNA so that to see if we could make a person grow back their missing limbs, right? Mm. At least then they have an end goal in mind. They're not just a bunch of bored college students who have too much grant money, so they decide to torture an animal essentially for no real purpose.
No, they learned a lot. I don't remember exactly what they learned, but they learned something.
Even unless the thing that they learned is going to save people's lives, it wasn't worth it.
Guys, chicken saurus, it's gonna happen.
Again, it's just like people with too much time and money on their hands, fucking with animals in a way that they should not. Which I guess, I mean, maybe that's the
But don't you want to stick it to the creationists?
No, I care more about not torturing animals than sticking it to the creationists. So, Camilla, she looks up the name of Biosyn. Right, she finds the Compsognathicus. She calls a number written down by her father. The Biosyn executive Ludlow tells her that her father is doing crucial work for them, helping them track down the monsters on the island so that they can safely relocate them. She tells him she wants to speak to her father, and he says that is impossible right now. She asks if he's on the island, and he tells her that he has to go to a meeting, but that he wants to assure her that her father is perfectly safe. He hangs up on her and goes into a meeting with John Hammond, who is trying to stop his company from seizing the dinosaurs by having them declared an endangered species.
Hammond from the first movie.
That's right. Ludlow says that the dinosaurs aren't an endangered species, they're an invasive species to Costa Rica, who could cause catastrophic damage if they were released into the wild. He tells Hammond that he's lucky that Ludlow is here to clean up his mess. He understands that with the number of lawsuits and insurance claims, Hammond might be homeless if the board of directors hadn't agreed to Biosyn's terms. He tells him to have a nice day. He has a helicopter to catch. Camilla decides to take the old family boat to the island. Arlo finds out and is angry with her for abandoning them. Camilla tells him to grow up. She tells him she needs him to watch AJ while she's gone. Arlo tells her that he's not going to let her get herself killed. He says that their dad made his decisions, but she knows better. She says that she's going, whether he likes it or not. He tells her that he's coming with her. He says she doesn't know how to steer the boat. Camilla has their aunt visit to look after AJ. She tells AJ that she and Arlo have to leave, but they are going to come back with Dad. She tells him to be good and makes him promise not to go in her room. We have Camilla and Arlo take the boat to the island, where they're threatened by a Pachycephalosaurus and saved by Sarah Harding, Eddie Carr, and Nick Owen. People hired by Hammond as part of a research team to get photographs of the treatment of dinosaurs by Biosyn for the same purpose of having them declared as endangered species and proving that Biosyn is abusing them.
It was called Trudon. It caught bugs and put them in water so it could catch fish with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think apes even do that. They don't fish. I mean, they come up with shoots so that they can get ants inside of hills, but they don't I don't think they use bait to get other animals to kill. How do we know that this thing caught insects and fed them to fishes, though? That seems like speculation. Where's that in the fossil record?
I'll look into it.
Are you listening to my pitch?
Yes.
Okay, what do you think of it so far?
It's pretty engaging.
Okay, well, yeah. 1/3 of the way into the film.
Oh.
A little bit less than, I guess 1/3 at this point, yeah. So we have, so they meet Sarah Harding, Eddie Carr, and Nick Owen, who are the same people from the first film, but their personalities are a little bit different. They're,
Don't read it.
Okay, wait, where was I? Yeah, they're taken to their camp. Which is up in the trees, and they are given food. So, and Harding, she talks about what being in a zoo does to an animal's mind, and how she's not going to let that happen to the dinosaurs.
She talks about how like animals who are in zoo enclosures just sit around and get fed all day. It's essentially like imprisoning a person, like isolating them from any.
There's a reason why we couldn't keep a great white shark in an aquarium.
Well, because
you think we could keep a Tyrannosaurus in like 100 square meter area?
That's right. Yeah, I mean that could. Yeah, that's part of her. That could be part of her argument as well. That it's not just that the dinosaurs will be like emotionally and psychologically drained from being in a zoo, but the possibility that they'll just die in an enclosure. They won't be able to cope like some animals. So Arlo admits that he does not trust Harding and Owen, and he wants them to strike out. Camilla says that they will die if they do that. She heads back to the camp and sees Owen and Carr checking their guns. Alright, so this is the first time she sees that they have guns. We cut to AJ, wakes up in the middle of the night, because of a weird noise. He comes out of his room and his aunt tells him that it's just rats. She tells him to go back to bed and goes to Camilla's bedroom where the noise is coming from. She opens the door and sees the Compsognathus's cage, which is open.
Saboteur.
On the island, Camilla, Arlo, Harding, Carr, and Owen are traveling through the swamp. When they realize that they are in the territory of a large carnivore, they are attacked by a chameleon-like Carnotaurus that kills Eddie Carr. They escape through the swamp and are separated from Arlo. Owen, Harding, and Camilla run into a clearing where the Tyrannosaurus nest is. It threatens them, and they run and realize that there are two Tyrannosaurs. It looks like they're about to be eaten when the mercenaries show up. The male T-Rex gets shot in the head with an elephant gun. It collapses dead, and the female T-Rex gets tranquilized, and a net is thrown over it. Tembo, Roland Tembo, the big game hunter, marches out and bemoans the fact that humans are able to so easily conquer other animals. He has Shiffy, his partner, take a picture of him with his foot on the T-Rex's head and the elephant gun in his hand. Owen, Harding, and Camilla are captured by the mercenaries because they are trespassing on private property. Tembo tells the mercenaries they are performing a citizen's arrest and has Camilla, Harding, and Arlo tied up and taken back to the camp where they are loading caged dinosaurs onto trucks. Camilla tells Tembo she is Marty's daughter, and Tembo allows her to talk to her dad. He gets a call from Ludlow saying he'll be there tonight to get what... Yeah. Tembo gets a call. So my idea for Tembo is that he would be like similar to the movie. So he's the big game hunter who's like, I'm tired of like taking dentists out on safaris.
Did he give himself an African name?
I think he was supposed to be Australian, although I'm not sure. I must admit.
He sounded British.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that he gave himself an African name. That'd be pretty fucked up, I guess. Although, maybe he was South African, though. Maybe he was an actual...
South Africans sound pretty Australian.
Yeah, well, I remember... I don't know. He didn't seem English, from what I recall. I think he was played by an English actor, maybe, but it might have been intended to be not English. But in my version of events, he's similarly like fed up with his lot in life.
Right.
But he dislikes the so he's like bored with killing dinosaurs, essentially. Like he's really good at this, this killing dinosaurs or capturing dinosaurs thing, right? To the point where he's not fazed by most of them anymore. He's been doing this for Biosyn for a while, capturing these stuff and putting them on a boat. Like I guess like he's been doing it for a couple of weeks, let's say, right? It has been multiple boats. It's only one big boat that they're putting the dinosaurs on. and then they're just killing all the other ones. And he's like, he's jaded. He's traveled the world. He's seen lots of different creatures. He came here to see something new, right? Something like exciting and impactful. But he's pretty quickly figured out how to handle each type of dinosaur, right? And he's unimpressed by them. And simultaneously, he just despises his bosses because he's seen like what the dinosaurs can do to the other mercenaries. And he thinks the island is he thinks it's a mistake to take the dinosaurs where they're going, but he doesn't care about it morally. He'll still take their money, but he hates his bosses, as much as he hates the animal rights activists like Harding and Owen, essentially. He thinks they're all stupid. Yeah, so that's his character. He's an angry big game hunter who is jaded and has a very existential view of the world. Right, so Ludlow says he'll be there tonight to get what they need from the lab by then. Camilla talks to her dad, and he tells her that she and her brother shouldn't have come, and that and that he was perfectly safe, and he's learning so much. She tells him that he shouldn't have taken this job, it's too dangerous. He tells her that he's providing for the family, and she tells him that AJ and Arlo don't need a bigger house, they need him to be their father. Just then, the camp is attacked by a pack of raptors, and Tembo climbs up a tree and uses a rifle to take down a bunch of the raptors. Those who survive flee into the jungle.
What kinds of raptors?
Raptors. The raptors from Jurassic Park 1, because they're iconic. In the confusion, Sarah and Owen escape from their tent. They go to an Allosaurus cage to release it, and Tembo shoots Owen, and Sarah runs off and escapes in the confusion. Marty and Camilla come out of their tents and see Sarah run off, and Tembo chooses to kill the raptor threatening Marty and Camilla rather than to go after Sarah. The camp is in disrepair, and a couple of mercenaries are dead. Tembo tells Shiffy, his right-hand man, I already mentioned Shiffy before, but he tells Shiffy to take Camilla back to the ship, and Marty says that they need to find his son, who is still out there. Tembo says that would be suicide. The only safety they have is from traveling in groups. Marty says that he isn't going anywhere until they find his son. Shiffy says that they can spare some men to look for him. They've collected most of the dinos on the island at this point. Tembo tells Shiffy to take a couple of mercenaries into the swamp and look for Arlo. He says he'll see him back at the dock by sundown. And also, Camilla decides to stick with Marty and Tembo, then head back to the boat because she considers it safer to be with them. AJ comes home from school and finds that the family cat is dead and that the Compsognathuses are everywhere. He runs and hides and finds that he is in a room with his aunt, who one of the compies is feeding on. It jumps at him, and he fights it off and beats it with a clock, killing it. The others claw at the door and try to get in, but he blocks the door. Back to the island, Shiffy is looking for Arlo, and they find Sarah torn apart, with parts of her hanging from the vines of trees. They find Arlo hiding a log, who tells them to get out of the clearing right now. Some pterodactyls attack then, taking out a couple of men while Shiffy escapes into the log. He scares the pterodactyls off with a grenade, and then him and Arlo run for it. Tembo, Camilla, and Marty go to the old laboratory. This is on Isla Nublar. There's only one island in this version of events. Because they show it's not retcon. Because they show in the first film the dinosaurs coming out of the eggs on that island.
No, but that was after they had built the park. Isla Sorna was where they had the research facility where they were figuring all of it out.
That was the research facility. They showed them all their research.
No, that was cosmetic. They were doing it in front of a screen.
Yeah, but they were obviously breeding them there. But that's where they kept all the gene stuff. They had like a big room with a bunch of test tubes that had all the genetic material.
They had to
samples.
They had to relocate after the hurricane.
What do you mean?
The hurricane caused them to leave the island. so they couldn't continue working on it, and that's why it was abandoned.
You mean Isla
Sorna.
Okay. There was a hurricane on Isla Sorna?
There was a hurricane, yeah. And
was that in the movie?
No.
It was in the book?
Yes.
That's not explained in the film at all.
Okay.
Okay. Where was I? Yeah, he's goes with the pterodactyl. So Tembo, Camilla, and Marty go to the old laboratory, same place as we saw in the first Jurassic Park film, in a Jeep with a couple of other mercenaries. They break into the labs, and Marty starts looking through all the files. He finds what they need, and they head outside. As they do, Camilla notices a distortion in the light, like she saw when the Carnotaurus attacked. Carnotaurus? When the Carnotaurus attacked. She pulls her dad to the ground, and the Carnotaurus attacks and bites one of the mercenaries, trampling on another. It slashes Tembo, and he collapses from blood loss. Marty and Camilla escape to the Jeep, and the Carnotaurus runs after them. They have to stop the Jeep because a Stegosaurus steps across the road. They flee as the Carnotaurus and the Stegosaurus attack each other, knocking the Jeep over. They crawl out from under the Jeep and escape into the jungle. Cut back to AJ. He faces the compies and smacks them about with a baseball bat. He plays a message on the phone, luring them into one area and traps them under a laundry basket. And then escapes out the front door to get the police. This is the only aspect of the script which isn't fully developed, is what happens to AJ at this point. I was just going to have it stop there, and he wasn't going to show up back. But if we wanted to have like a better conclusion, the only thing I could think of is maybe he comes there with like a couple of policemen, and the policemen see the compsognathuses and are freaked out by them. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can think of. But other than that, there's no real... his story doesn't wrap up very neatly because I wasn't going to have the movie ending with the family reuniting. Mm-hmm. So then we cut back to the island. Camilla and Marty are like marching through the swamp. Right, it's getting dark, and they believe that they will be left behind and that they'll be killed. And Camilla is like losing all hope in this moment and talking about, you know, what she wished Marty had done, and her own like regrets and the death of her mother is just like laying it all out there. Then they hear the hum of a Jeep, and they see Shiffy escaping from the pterodactyls with Arlo. They get in the Jeep and drive to the port. As they arrive, a helicopter is landing with Ludlow. Shiffy tells Ludlow they have to leave now, even though they haven't finished loading the cages. Ludlow says that's not happening and asks where Tembo is. Just then they hear a strange call, and dozens of raptors show up and attack the port. So this is the idea I had, that earlier we see the raptors attack the camp, because there's a bunch of like caged up herbivores there that they want to eat, right? Earlier we see them attack the camp, and then Tembo like kills like 5 or 6 of them or whatever, and they run off
with a big knife.
No, with a sniper rifle while in a tree.
Oh, I thought it was just gonna get close up to them and just stab them all.
That would be too gory.
Okay. Guns are much cleaner.
I was thinking that in this moment the raptors sort of take revenge, and we see how many of them there are on the island. Mm-hmm. So we get like dozens of them attacking the boat, overriding the mercenaries, and killing most of them easily. Shiffy tries to hold off the raptors, but he's overrun. Ludlow threatens Marty for the notes he got from the lab, and Marty hands them over. Then Ludlow escapes into the helicopter, which flies up into the air. As it flies, a couple of pterodactyls attack the helicopter, and it falls back down onto the boat and crashes. They retreat.
You realize if there were pterosaurs on the island, they would have gone off the island
Jacob,
a long time ago.
That's going to be addressed in Jurassic Park 3, okay? Also, maybe they wouldn't. You don't know. Okay. No, you're right. Well, the pterosaurs thing didn't make a ton of sense. I will admit. But I mean, if you wanted to explain it, I would have that be part of the whole. The Costa Rican government is afraid of these things, and what effect they're having in Costa Rica, and that's why they're like allowing Biosyn to have this. They're helping Biosyn with their like shady operation of recapturing all this stuff for a bunch of like, yeah, weird experiments. So they retreat onto the boat and they hide in the hull of the ship where the cages of the other dinos are being kept. The raptors stalk them, and Marty has the plan to release the mother T-Rex because it will scare the raptors off. Camilla doesn't want to do it, but Arlo says they should. Camilla helps them release the T-Rex, and they run from the raptors, climbing on cages and on top of piled-up crates. The T-Rex is extremely angry, and the raptors start retreating. Ludlow climbs out of the crashed helicopter when the raptors start leaving, and he is crushed by the T-Rex, who is searching for her eggs on board. Marty, Camilla, and Arlo make it to the helicopter and think that they could get it going, but they have to turn it over. They desperately try to lift it, but can't. Arlo goes to the crane that they were using to load the cages on board and uses it to pick up and right the helicopter. The movement attracts the T-Rex, which attacks the crane. Arlo escapes, but hurts his leg jumping out of the crane. Camilla runs to grab Arlo and drag him to the helicopter as Marty tries to get the helicopter turned back on. But as Camilla is doing this, a pterodactyl swoops down and Arlo shoves her off. The pterodactyl grabs Arlo and flies off with him. Another pterodactyl lands and Camilla has to fight it off with an oar. As Marty is fiddling with the helicopter, another pterodactyl attacks the helicopter and almost impales him with its beak. The helicopter blade starts working and making noise, and the T-Rex runs towards him and roars at him. It looks like it's about to attack the helicopter when Tembo shows up and shoots the pterodactyl, threatening Camilla.
What's the excuse that Pokemon only say their names?
Jacob? Now is not the time. Tembo tells her to get to the damn helicopter, and she runs to her dad and gets in. She cries as they lift off, the T-Rex roaring after them, and then turning and moving towards a blood-soaked Tembo. Tembo touches the last piece of ammo in his pack, and then stares at Shiffy's body on the deck. He looks around at the pterodactyls feeding on the dead mercenaries and circling above the ship. He loads the gun, aims it at an oil barrel, and shoots it, setting the deck on fire in hopes of taking out the dinosaurs on board. The T-Rex retreats from the fire and off board as the boat catches fire and the packs of grenades go off, causing the ship to explode and begin to sink. Camilla watches it sink as Marty stares out at the night. He picks up the notes, Dr. Wu's files, and the correct balance gene chain used for the dinosaur cloning process, and throws them out of the broken window of the helicopter. We see the pages fly on the wind and land in the ocean, becoming soaked and disappearing beneath the foam.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of the film.
Okay.
What do you think?
So the press, the footprint, the blueprint, the scaffold of this movie,
yes,
the inspiration, the thing that's that you're supposed to always be thinking about when you're writing a Jurassic Park movie.
Okay.
Life finds a way.
Oh, yeah. In this film, death finds a way.
Okay.
In this film, most of the dinosaurs die on a burning boat. And most of the characters die in horrible ways. Well, it's because here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic Park 2 is darker than the original Jurassic Park.
Right.
But it's dark in a mean way. In a Black Mirror kind of unfairness. That's
and we all know you love Black Mirror.
That's just like sadistic and stingy, as opposed to being honest and empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a story that shows how terrible it would be to have dinosaurs be around in modern day with the Compsognathuses and the pterodactyls and the chameleon dinosaur that jumps out at the last moment. I wanted to show that, right?
Mm.
And I wanted to show Tembo's understanding of nature being more honest. So Tembo is still wrong earlier when he's like, human beings have conquered all the animals in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's proven wrong when later the Carnotaurus surprises him, essentially.
Yeah.
Like just like how InGen didn't expect that the Carnotaurus would have chameleon scales when they cloned it, right? They just made it because it looked cool.
No dinosaur had scales.
The ones in Jurassic Park too.
No, they had leathery skin.
They had scales,
They did
Jacob.
not have scales. I never saw scales on a dinosaur.
They were scales. They looked huge.
People never thought dinosaurs had scales.
Yes, they did.
Maybe at the very beginning, like with the Gigantosaurus and the Iguanodon, but not when they actually discovered, how dinosaurs look.
First of all, this is the 1990s. Okay. Second of all, this is the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park series are not meant to look like what dinosaurs actually looked like. They're meant to look like the dinosaurs that are in like classical paintings and films, like cheesy, low-budget films from the 1950s, like Land of the Lost. Okay, That's what they're supposed to look like, so that they're easily recognizable by the audience.
Yeah.
They're sensationalized dinosaurs.
Sure. But, T-Rex can look cool with feathers, okay?
But that's not Jurassic Park, is all.
It's just... supposedly it used feathers for a partial camouflage, so imagine it just, walking slowly at you, silently, until it's close enough to get you.
But the cloaking thing?
T-Rex,
chameleon thing?
It had feathers that were the color of its environment.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
It's camouflage.
Camouflage, yes.
Yeah, birds often have... It depends on the type of bird, because some birds have like bright plumage to get attention, but they often have colors that are supposed to blend in with their environment. Yeah, so that's this film. And it's setting up, I was thinking of like a third film where the dinosaurs pose like where the pterodactyls essentially go on like a killing spree on the mainland, right? Because they are like even like really far away, because I know they migrated like hundreds of miles to lay their eggs or some shit. So I'm imagining like the third film would be about somebody like tracking down these monsters that have killed a bunch of people and trying to stop them before they can like breed.
Yeah.
That's what the third film would be about. That's why I thought it would be good to introduce the pterodactyls in this film as another element of like unpredictability, where they might have been like chained up or like in a giant cage at one point. I guess we could see that cage. It would be good if we saw the cage at some point in this film, in this version of the film. Or maybe they all had their wings clipped, right? Mm-hmm. So that they wouldn't be able to fly, but then they ended up being able to produce babies, and those babies were able to fly because of the whole toad sex change thing. Yeah. So that's another element.
Dinosaurs used to look really lame with the T-Rex that was standing upright like a human, dragging its tail on the ground. That was dumb. That did not look interesting at all.
No, I'm not arguing for that, Jacob. I'm arguing that I'm just saying that in the Jurassic Park world, that's what the dinosaurs that InGen made looked like. They made them to look like, they even say it in the Jurassic World, they say that they built them to look like what people thought dinosaurs look like, not what dinosaurs actually look like.
Right, that's what I was saying.
They're not, because they're made with toads. right? They're made with frog DNA. That's not actual dinosaurs. They weren't made with bird DNA. I was able to
have both worlds. I said that they would genetically engineer the dinosaurs to look different on purpose so that they would be more family friendly. But there would also be feathered dinosaurs on Isla Sorna where they were experimenting.
Yeah.
And I think there should be, because I don't think the Jurassic Park's Velociraptor is more threatening than a Utah raptor, which is supposedly one of the largest known raptor currently.
The Utah raptor?
Utah raptor, you know about it?
They weren't the ones that had like the ridge on their head that stole eggs, were they? No, I was thinking of something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the biggest one.
Probably.
So far that they know of. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, mine was super grim.
I thought mine was a little more whimsical.
Well, I didn't want to make it with having Ian Malcolm in it. I wanted it to be new characters who are experiencing like the after effects of Jurassic Park in a completely different way, in a completely different context. And I wanted it to be about like how this American company, these American corporations, don't just like abuse animals, but they also abuse these smaller Central American countries, right? They push them around and they manipulate them, right? Like InGen essentially used Costa Rica as their sandbox with no conception of the possible consequences to what they were doing to Costa Rica, essentially. So that's what I wanted it to be about. I wanted it to have Costa Rican main characters be dealing with this from that perspective. Cool.
It's possible that Spinosaurus had bioluminescent skin.
Well, that's been Footnotes for today, everybody. Go ahead and leave a comment if you have your own suggestions about how you would improve Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World. And thank you for listening. Make sure to share with your friends if you enjoyed it. Have a nice day, Jacob.
Yes.
You have any dinosaur-based facts you want to drop on us before we leave this before we end this podcast?
Okay. A theropod was discovered, which was supposedly a raptor and had a similar skull to the Tyrannosaurus, and it was called the Microtyrannosaurus, but it turned out to be a juvenile T-Rex.
Yeah, I would not say that was a raptor. I'd be like, yeah, that's a baby T-Rex if I found that.
No, but it had really skinny legs, unlike a T-Rex, so they couldn't tell. It was an
classic
ontological
classic
thing.
Paleontologists. Did we call somebody an archaeologist earlier in this when they were a paleontologist? We might have done that earlier in this podcast.
I think paleontology is a type of archaeology.
Possibly. Classic paleontologists, they're always getting stuff wrong. Right? They're like, oh yeah, this iguanodon's thumb was part of its nose or some shit.
It's
Who even needs them? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. This huge curved clawed hand was actually part of a big turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching. And remember, life finds a way.
That's why I wanted him in the movie, because he did that.
Yeah, but that's not a good reason to put him in the movie. It's just because he's everybody's favorite character. That's like, oh, we're making the second Star Wars film. Let's just cut Luke out of the picture. Just make the film about Han Solo because he's more interesting.
Oh, we're making the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Let's make it.
Let's make it about Jack Sparrow because he's everybody's favorite. Yeah, and we all know how that turned out. Don't we? Don't we fucking do? They cut you from the gym team. The whole film, he's just like spouting these one-liners that often don't have anything to do with the situation. It's just they want him to be funny and snarky.
Rawr, rawr, rawr. He was displayed as a kook by the lawyers, and he was a kook. Goodbye.
Yeah, maybe he was just. Yeah, maybe Ian Malcolm was just crazy the whole time. That would certainly explain the dinosaur in San Francisco shit. I like the fact that they brought him back for the Fallen Kingdom movie, only to have him not do anything. He was just in one scene in Congress, right?
Hmm.
That was stupid.
Yeah.